This is Facepalm America. I'm Beowulf Rockland. FacepalmAmerica.com is where you can find out more information about the show. Listen to past episodes, interact with us on social media, and as always, you can call us or message us at 202-656-6271 if you would like to interact with us. And I do have a message at the end of the show that I will read that we got. But first of all, I want to talk about talking to folks, particularly across the aisle or across the political spectrum. It's something that I think is really important to do. I was raised in a conservative family, as longtime listeners know. I was also raised in a very liberal area. In the place that I grew up was Marin County, California, in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so I had a lot of experience reaching across the aisle because I just had no other choice growing up. I had to in order to survive in the environment that I did. And I've come to realize, given that perspective, that it's really critical that the people that we think are just horribly atrocious in terms of their politics are often people that we have an enormous amount in common with. And so I have invited on the program today Egberto Willies. He is a political activist. He's an author. He's a radio show host. We like that in this neck of the woods. He's also the author of a book which you should check out, and that is It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. Egberto, welcome to Facepalm America. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. It's my honor to be here, Senor Rochland. How are you doing this morning?
Doing very well. Thank you so much. Now, you're out of Texas, so you must employ the strategies in your book on a regular basis.
Yes, actually, I must. It's interesting because I live in Harris County, Texas, which is a bellwether county. It's a blue county surrounded by red counties. Yeah. And it turns out that I am living in the very reddest part of Harris County, which is very, very red. It's where Ted Cruz comes to raise money, etc. Okay?
So you're in a red part of a blue county in a red state.
Exactly.
So I am the inverse. I am in Southern Oregon. So I am in, but I'm in like a sort of liberal part of the county that I live in. So I'm in a blue part of a red county in a blue state. So we're
amazing. Yeah. I would take yours better than mine. I mean, I would much prefer yours, right? But as it turns out,
you can go see baseball games, so you have an advantage over me.
Well, that's true.
Without driving 5 hours. So.
And that's true. And the Astros won their division, so it's okay.
Well, as you can see from my hat, I've shed a lot of tears this season, given that we're the A's are the absolute worst team in baseball, and more to the point, they have the absolute worst owners as they're being stolen away to Las Vegas. But I'll leave that for another show.
Yes. But as it turns out, yes, I do live in a very red area in a blue county. And most of the people that I interact with in this part of town, they are actually very conservatives, some of them very MAGA. Yeah. And the question is, do I hate these people? No. Do I talk to these people? Of course. Do we have good conversations? Of course. From the time I moved here, my daughter was 6 years old. I had to interact with all these families then. So, it is something that you do to have life more pleasurable. But not only that, I realized a long time that the differences that we have with regards to ideology and politics, etc., really isn't real. It is something imposed on us for an ulterior motive. Yeah. And once you get all of that, and that's what I use the book for. I use the book as sort of a way of showing a whole lot of the politics of progressives. And I know a lot of the right wingers who've read the book have said, wow, those are not things that I would not want to do. Those are not things that I hate. Yeah. So what is the problem really? The problem is the externalities that's kind of driving us apart.
Right. We're being atomized in a very deliberate way. We're being siloed from one another. It's not just random that we have, like, for example, the media silos that we have, that, one group of us watches MSNBC and another group watches Fox News. Those were created, or evolved in a pretty deliberate way so that, like, we're rooting for opposite teams. Whereas if you look at, like, what we actually want, what are the things that we want in our lives? Like, for the most part, we're gravitating towards the same stuff. Like, I forget where it comes from, but there's polling I know out there that says 70% of us want Medicare for all. Now, there aren't 70% Democrats in this country. That means that there are a good portion of Republicans who want that same thing. And yet, so we should be talking to each other about this. We can make common cause around this.
Interestingly, I have a Medicare for All story to tell, and I recount that in the book. And it turns out I'm sitting down and I write all my books in Starbucks. I write my blogs in Starbucks, or used to before the pandemic. Yeah. I would sit down there and I would be in Starbucks 7 to 10 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And they call it my second office. And this woman, she comes in all of the time, and, she finally got the courage to sit down next to me and ask me, what do? I explained to her that I'm a writer, that I have a radio host. I told her a few things. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember how the stuff gravitated towards healthcare, but she was really upset with her insurance company, et cetera. So I started to work on an exercise, and in which, and, I've explained this in different forms before, but I started asking her lead-in questions, of course, as far as what she would want. So I am describing things that she wants, and that God, if it just worked like that, it would be great. Yeah. Yes, that's what we want. And then she started having ideas. And I am starting to feel guilty now, because this woman, it's a, middle-aged white woman. Yeah. And I know because of the area that I live in, I know she thinks she's talking to this conservative black dude, right? Right. So she's comfortable and all that sort of a thing, talking, and we're getting down, and I'm feeling guilty now because I felt like she was just eating out of the palm of my hand. So I said, ma'am, I just want to say one thing. I am a very liberal guy, probably likely the most progressive person in Kingwood. And her eyes opened wide, and she turned cherry red and said, "But you are so nice." Yeah. And when she said that, I repeat this story every time, because every time somebody hears it, your reaction is a reaction I get. Yeah. So I finished and I told her, "Look, ma'am, we don't have horns, right?" Mm-hmm. And then I said, "There's a group around here called Liberal Ladies Who Lunch. You should have lunch with them sometimes." Yeah. And you'll find out that, you have more in common. But she was, even after that, she was totally convinced. I don't know what happened when she went home, but she was totally convinced that Medicare for All is actually something that she would want. And it's not the caricature that she heard on Fox News. It is something that actually makes fiscal sense. And the truth of the matter is, Medicare for All is really, if you really want to talk about conservatism, that would be a conservative idea, not because government is running it, but because Medicare for All says that we, all of us, put our money to pay for something that the private sector is a party of to provide service to you. Yeah. Nothing, it's amazing.
It's fiscally conservative because it wastes less. That's supposed to be what conservatism is about.
Yes. And so she got it. This woman got it. Because when I would say things like, and they'll say, I told her, if I gave you $1 to pay my bills and you said, no, for me to pay that dollar bill for you, you have to give me another 28 or 30 cents more to pay me 30 cents on every dollar you want me to pay. Would you pay for you? That's ridiculous, she says. I'm like, that is what we do right now. And it's even worse when you add all the incidentals. And she got it. And the thing about it is, people get this, but we don't have a media like yours explaining it, because they have other interests. Think about all the drug companies that are interviewing, that are paying for those ads,
And think about the word media too, because that's the root of the word mediate, and that's kind of what these powerful companies and powerful individuals are trying to do. They're trying to mediate the conversation between us and them and you and me. They want to get in the middle, and they want to direct the flow of the conversation in a way that's going to be beneficial to them. But if we go around that, if we eliminate the middleman, then we can have direct conversations with ourselves. We can talk to each other and realize that, yeah, we might have some differences, but ultimately they're not that great. And we all want the same basic fundamental things. We want to be able to pay the bills and not struggle 24/7, and to be able to take care of our families, and to have some time left over to enjoy being in the presence of our friends and family and relatives. We all want those things, and when we talk to each other, when we engage, we find those things out. And so I think there's an inherent interest, unfortunately, in the system the way it is set up now, of keeping us separate, keeping us atomized, keeping us apart from one another, and viewing one another through lenses that greatly distort who the other side is. And that's true, looking at the left. And, I catch myself doing it all the time, engaging in caricatures of people on the right. And it's an easy thing to do, but you have to be aware of it, and I have to stop myself sometimes, because it really is important to talk with folks. It's always, we're social beings. That's who we are. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many like since that time, like what's kind of your standard procedure for engaging with someone that you are pretty sure is not necessarily going to agree with you politically?
The thing that I do the most of is to listen. In other words, I'll go out there, and even if I start a conversation where I say something that I know this person thinks they don't agree with, I would say it, and then I'd let them talk, and I'd let them talk, and I'd let them talk. And after I'm hearing them talk, I then start to ask questions. And interestingly, because I've given them the honor of listening to them uninterruptedly. In other words, if you go to my radio show, a lot of times some of my progressive audience get mad at me because I let these people talk and talk and talk.
Yeah.
And the reason why is I want to let them know they're being heard, right?
Yeah.
So they're being heard. Then I start asking questions based on what they've said. And the mere fact that I'm asking questions on things that they've said, that gives me some more respect with them, because it's like, my God, the guy was actually listening to me.
Right.
So I'm asking questions of what he said. And ironically, many times these questions, sometimes leading, will have them come into a progressive position.
Yeah.
Because that progressive position is, when you do the polls, it's actually what people want. We're not going to get there on abortion. We're not going to get there on these types of social issues that really don't have a wrong or a right, but this is my fundamental belief. But 1 + 1 will always equal 2.
Yeah, the vast majority of things we can always, like when it comes to like living our lives and surviving and getting by. And you see, to my mind, that is why so much of the media and politics is focused on those cultural separating, dividing issues, because it's to the benefit of powerful people to keep us separate and keep us divided and focus on those issues, and put less emphasis on the economic issues, which are fundamentally where they derive their power from. And we could be deriving our power from in terms of just taking care of ourselves, just getting what's necessary in order to get by and survive and be comfortable, because that is what we need. And there could still be, rich people, in abundance, but we're all richer when we're all doing well. And to reach across the aisle like that, I think is just a really fundamental part of that. And I want to say it again. The book is It's Worth It: How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors.